Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Eric Stone. He is the founder and CEO at ClearPath Ventures and is author of Jumpstart Your Workplace Culture, a roadmap for igniting high performance. Welcome to the show, Eric.
AJ, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome to the show. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk about. We're going to talk about employee engagement. And this is something which will resonate globally. So my first question to you, Eric, is we will be certainly talking about, key factors for employee engagement. But my first thing is to understand about work culture and employee engagement. Why do we need to talk about employee engagement where employees go to work to earn their money, earn their salaries, and still we need to engage them? I need to understand why is this, gap that it is almost like a forced labor that you have to force somebody to work, force someone to engage with what they are paid for, and that it becomes a big issue. So I want to understand employee engagement in today's life and link it with work culture.
Yeah, I mean, AJ, listen, there's 5 generations in the workplace right now, from Gen Z all the way up to the silent generation. And so you have this uniqueness going on and trying to be a leader and bringing everyone together and feeling valued. And so it's really a human-centric approach where you really need to focus on not just, I hired you, I'm paying you. There's a little bit more to that in order to unlock someone's potential. And engagement is a way to truly create this experience within an organization that goes from top to bottom throughout, where behaviors are in line with the values of an organization. Everyone is swimming in the right direction, as they say. And when you have elite engagement, the good news is it tends to lead to elite outcomes for your business.
Right. So obviously the engaged employees should be engaged and leaders want to engage, as much as possible. But then why is this disengagement happening? It's happened to a great extent, the great resignation and the quiet quitting. Help us understand, if leaders are there to engage employees, then who has disengaged them?
Yeah, it's great. Well, it tends to usually be, unfortunately, the leader can do so many things great, but again, there's a whole entire organization that needs to be in the same mindset. And so when you look directly at the immediate supervisor of an individual, that tends to be the number one reason why someone can get disengaged. Matter of fact, that level can be disengaged, which is extremely dangerous. And when that happens, I think it's 7 times likelier that the folks below will be disengaged. But really focusing in on that person that you're directly reporting to and what kind of relationship are they creating?
Right. So it means that is why they say you don't leave a company, you leave your manager. Is that because of that?
There's no doubt. I mean, it is amazing what happens when, from onboarding in the interview process, you have connected within the organization, and then they assign you a branch buddy, and then maybe it's a mentor, and then maybe the leadership has a good presence within the organization, and so in and out of work, and so maybe there's a volunteer item that you're getting together with, a significant other is able to attend, and when you build great relationships, you get great results. And so when trust is built in the beginning of a relationship, it's amazing what people will open up to with you. It's amazing how vested the individual, the employees become, and they understand what they are and where they're going.
Absolutely. So if it is about just a manager, then what is the work culture? Because nowadays there is a lot of talk about toxic workplaces. So help us understand what are these toxic workplaces? Who creates them? Is it only the manager who creates it, or is it there a larger aspect to it? And and how to create a winning workplace culture. I want to understand, about these things for it's been talked about. I know you have a fresh perspective to things. You have worked, you have been, the most decorated regional vice president in enterprise holding. So you have that history. Now you are helping, many people create the success for themselves. So
Yeah.
you would know things in a bit different way than the world is seeing them. Help us understand about work culture so that this all becomes very great places that one can look forward to.
Yeah, and that's a big question, and it goes deep into what I talk about. I think okay, so toxic thing. When does that become? When do things become toxic? Well, we talked about a relationship, so that was one of them. When there are not clear goals and expectations throughout an organization, it's a flavor of the week. It's always something different. It gets very difficult to get a footing on what you are doing. You tend to have these difficult policies and procedures that are hard to understand, and when you can't understand it, it's hard to execute. They tend to have gaps in training. They're expecting this high level of performance, but they don't necessarily apply the training, material, and equipment to be successful and to achieve the desired outcome. They struggle with this ability to develop personally and professionally within the organization. So, what are some of those leadership development groups that they're part of, or how do they truly benefit and learn a little bit about financial literacy, because they're thinking about that at home, and it tends to miss something. They recognize effort, but reward excellence. So those are kind of compacted in how you can try to avoid this disengagement. But it also, by doing that, it eliminates the silos. It eliminates a lot of things that can make people not feel that they're all going as a common goal. And the important thing is, look at it this way, AJ. It's do the branch goals, that might be in an organization, bleed into the area goals of an organization, to the regional goals, to the corporate goals, where everyone can kind of view and not have any disconnect. And I call it the distraction catcher. The great organizations avoid this distraction that happens. But there are a number of things. If you can use some of those elements of what I was talking about, it is a little bit of a shock absorber to the difficult times that are going to happen. And that is really the benefit of a workplace culture, to avoid this toxic behavior, is it's almost a shield during those difficult times. And then the really good organizations, AJ, have a way to create what I call culture carriers. So when it gets difficult, when it is hard, and it will be, you have these other voices within the organization that can kind of guide you to the right path.
Guide you to the right path. So at the same time, if you look at from the employee's point of view, their aspirations have also changed. Now they just don't want a job. They want a job which fulfills their purpose in life. They want to do something good. They want to be with something good. And that is where, they want to look at companies who have a purpose along with profit, not profit over purpose. How do you look at this? How much would you look at leaders for work culture? Is it just about the manager? Because many a times, leader is the final authority. They can, and that is why a lot of talk is happening about leadership crisis. People are almost going to the extent of, automating the CEO, and so that let AI do the job. It can do better than them. Perhaps in one case they have already done in one company, if I remember, in Hong Kong or somewhere, and it's doing it well enough. Help us understand. I'm just trying to understand who is to blame. Is it more about profits? Is it about aspirations of employees? Have they disengaged because of work culture, or have they disengaged because they want something much more important? They want a purpose in their life. That is why where you talk about 5 factors to employee engagement. Can they answer these questions? Help us maybe with those factors. Along with that, can they and do they answer all these issues? Help us understand that.
Well, I mean, employees perceptions have changed. Their perspective has changed. And so Gen Z has come into the workforce and is looking for other things. It does not mean they're not capable of executing greatness. They just have a few other things that maybe when I was coming up, I just wanted to start a career. Treat me well, I'm there. I'll work a million hours. I just personally, I didn't really care. I wanted to go after it. I wanted a career. I love business. And I think there is now where work was just, hey, you go, that's where you go. You go to work. And you keep it very low key. You do not share too much. You work. And it's changed. It's where everything from political beliefs and aspirations and everything is now tucked into that place of work. And so their viewpoint of Gen Z, which I happen to have 11 nieces and nephews, 3 kids, their groups, they're really talented. They just want a little bit more. They've made us get tested a little bit more. And so it becomes a little more challenging. And then you get the flexibility debate, of course, which is, are we hybrid? Are we remote? Are we in person? And everyone has rethought what a workplace should look like. And as we mold this together and come up with it, it's going to be critical that we use leadership of the company as well as the voice of the employees to try to mold some clay. I don't know if we all have the right answer, but I will tell you, when you treat people well, when you give them clear goals and expectations, when you reward and recognize, and you do the right things in the community, you live your values, your behaviors are in line with your values. Everyone wants to do well. I've never met too many people, AJ, who want to show up to work and be terrible. They don't. They want to have a place, and it is our role to make people feel special, give them the tools to do what they can do, but have a very high expectation. I call it, you have to have empathy with accountability. You have to create high standards with high character, and you put those together. So I think that everyone who is coming in now they will make us better. They will make us better. Just like when millennials came in, they made me better. It was hard to get adjusted to a different mindset of time is currency, but they made me better. They made me schedule better for the team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in this backdrop, the 5 factors to key factors to employee engagement, help us understand this through these 5 factors.
Well, I mean, the one thing I try to do in anywhere I've worked is you have these values of a company, which everybody has, and everyone lists them. And of course, the goal is to live them. And to me, the next thing over was living your engagement factors, knowing that when you do the right thing human-centrically, that really good outcomes are going to come. And so the recommendation I would give the audience is, under each factor, think of 3 initiatives that every level of the organization can do to incorporate, whether it's a relationship or clear expectations and goals, or the right training and material and equipment to be successful, and all of those other things. The biggest advice is provide a framework that allows them to be successful, but just not from the top up. Look at what the CEO of Starbucks ended up doing. They were trying to stay connected and have a field presence. And so what they ended up doing to create stronger relationships and understand challenges is they went in and they spent a half a day a month side by side with a barista. That's leadership. That is digging in. That is looking for feedback, talking to your team, encouraging excellence, and all of those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is where now your book comes in. Jumpstart Your Work Culture. I can see that book in the background, very lovely book I can see. So help us understand, what is this book all about? Why did you write this book?
Yeah, so I've spent almost 30 years in the corporate world, nonprofit world, consulting. And through my career, the one interesting question that used to come up a lot is, hey, how do you and your team build this uniqueness, whether it's around sales, service, whatever it might be? Always resonated with me. Another big thing that in the back of my mind, when I was probably in my 30s, my dad said, Eric, I could not have been put on this earth to be just a textile salesman. And there's nothing wrong with being a textile salesman. He felt there was more. And so I took the questions that were asked, things from my parents, both parents, and I said, I think I have a message to deliver. I think I have come up with something that helps and is the catalyst to execution, that balances these results with relationships and things like that. And instead of impacting maybe a few hundred people within the workforce, I wanted to spread the message to maybe 10,000, 100,000 people. And so that's the goal for me. Spread the word of how to have this unique, special organization that performs at a very high level.
Who is this book for? Is it for the organizations? Is it for employees? What exactly have you discussed in this book? You also talk about, roadmap for igniting high performance. Who has to perform here? Because the employers are getting tested. So do they have to perform, or is it the employee that you have talked about?
Yeah. So the book, I mean, it was written for leadership. So it is written for, obviously, a wheelhouse would be any of those in HR, leaders of companies. What I have been pleasantly surprised is, as I mentioned earlier, I have 11 nieces and nephews. I have 3 kids. They are all Gen Z. They have their pockets of friends. And I've done a lot of outreach and speaking at colleges. And I was very pleased that there are some early lessons, especially for Gen Z, who workplace culture is really important and flexibility is really important. And while they might not be in leadership today, they'll be in leadership someday. And so the ideal audience is someone who's leading a team, leading an organization, but there are some benefits for those Gen Z folks coming through.
Right, right. When we talk of high performance, nowadays there is also this talk of high level of burnout. How do you calibrate both the things together, Eric? And if possible, also, if you have the book in your hand, you can show it better for the audience so that they can, they can get it and they know what this book looks like.
There you go.
Yeah, it's covering your face. It's covering your face. Yeah,
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, now it's better. Right.
So it's a really good question, AJ. What I always found is when you give the right bit of training. So I always felt when I gave people an ability to be successful, and when I lived those values that we espouse all the time, it allowed me to feel more comfortable to challenge. It allowed the employee, when they go home, there's a lot that gets talked about. The significant other, when you go home, it's grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, brother, cousin, wife, husband, whoever it is. And so when you supply people with the ability to be successful, it tends to, it kind of constricts the anxiety that we might have, or that mental health and well-being. And so I always felt that when you can truly care about people personally and guide them, for example, the last 10 minutes of your meeting, someone comes in to talk about some financial literacy. Someone comes in to talk about nutrition. Someone comes in to talk about something that they face at home, in addition to guiding them the right way. And when you can put that together, it's dangerous. It allows people to go a little bit further. Think of a trainer at work, of course you can work out at home. When you have that trainer who's guiding you, showing you the way, giving you a little bit of a push, you tend to not feel as much of that anxiety because you know what's expected. You know how to do it. So I think those are things that I always really wanted to make sure, and it allowed me to have a very high standard without getting people burnt out, or a few people burned out, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Tell us a bit about your Clear Path Ventures. What do you do there?
So, I came up with the name because whether it was individuals or organizations, we tend to make it very difficult to do what we do. You go around a board sometimes in a for-profit, you say, hey, what do we do? And sometimes it's hard to kind of just explain the simplicities. And I wanted to try to come up with ways to create a clear path to success. And we all know it's not that simple, but I usually felt that if you have 2 or 3 priorities that you are great at, you kind of create that path. And so by guiding individuals or organizations to make things just a little bit easier, I can remove some of the challenge and stress levels that can come up. And I guide them to go after those priorities and execute them to a high level. And then I also do a lot of speaking engagements to do the same thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is much to learn from you about all these things, about workplace culture, about high performance, about so many things to jumpstarting your workplace culture. So how does one get hold of your book? And for those people, what's the best way for them to connect, those who want to professionally engage with you and learn from you?
So you can get the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Amplify Publishing. If you want to learn more about me, I'm on LinkedIn. So I'll put some content out on LinkedIn. Instagram, ClearPathVentures _. I have a YouTube channel that, thanks to my daughter getting me up to date on a whole bunch of social media things, I have a YouTube channel. And so, or of course, just an email at eric@clearpathventures.com. That would probably be the best way.
Wonderful, wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thanks, AJ.